culture, we gon' talk about it. Come and address the culture, huh?
Hey everybody, brick by brick, Pstock is here. Big Wall, he has the night off. You know, peace and blessings. Let's enjoy. This is Address the Culture. We have a great show. You know, this show right here with these guys is the show that we've been waiting for. Big Wall and I and Darren Devon, who will be on. You know, we have our regular Darren. He's like the third host. He come through. He's the guy through bringing all this information from the real people right to you, you know, and that's what we do at Address the Culture. You know, you're going to hear the real. I mean, there ain't going to be whatever you thought you heard. No, you're hearing the real today. You know, you're going to learn today, you know, but, you know, a big shout out to Aladdin 19, all the family, Big Wall, you know, Address the Culture, the Culture Gang, incredible, you know, always in the mix. You know, big shout out to LP, Catch the London Paris show, you know, every other Tuesday. Check her out. You know, it's hot. You know, or Thursday. She's on Thursday. You know, check her out. You know, so that's what we do. You know, we make it happen with these great shows. And I ain't going to try to hold up anything. I'm going to bring Brother Darren Devon and everybody know, and then we're going to address the culture. Hey, Darren.
How's it, brother?
What's happening? Hey, this is what we do, Darren.
This is it,
what
bro.
we do.
This is what we do, you know.
We address the culture.
Hey, you talk about a fabulous show today. You know, we got Casey Jones, Bilal Al-Amin, we got Sam Pace, we got Kamal Hannibal. This is old school BKF guys, you know, coming up in the show. Talk about it, right?
And for those of our viewers who don't know, BKF, if I'm correct, is the Black Karate Federation.
Yes. Okay. Black Karate Federation.
Let's get it right. So the BKF is real. So
BKF is here, man. I couldn't be more honored to have these guys on this show today to talk about it, to talk about way back, to talk about the Long Beach Internationals. You know what went on back in those days. You know, I mean, we're talking 60s, 70s, you know, 80s. You know, these cats grew with the BKF and where they're at today. You know, I'd love to hear, you know, about the past, you know, the present and the future of where their organizations are, you know, where their headquarters are. You know, that way they could give everybody a shout out, you know, where is BKF? Where can you go to train? And that's the beauty of this show, is they could talk about, you know, historical documentation from what they experienced in their lives in the martial arts, you know, and then again, they could talk about the present and the future. So I'm excited with today's show, Brother Pstock, and I can't wait to hear, you know, what they had to say, you know, about their great experiences and their teachers, you know, and this is the beauty of this show and why I love this show.
Yeah, me too, you know, because, you know, coming up, you know, on the East Coast, you know, I mean, we didn't know that's in that area. And our little ecosystem, our environment, who we knew, you know, so it was always, you know, to look up. And then on television and in the theater, it was Jim Kelly first. You know, and I know we're going to find out, you know, a lot more and get into depth. But every show, all the shows we did leading up to this, you know, especially with the FMA and the YM martial arts, it's kind of setting it up for this one. Because I know that I heard things about the Philly International, you know, stuff that happened. It's a big event, but there was some stuff. It went down there too. You know, I mean, you ain't gonna sit there and keep cheating someone or whatever. That's, you know, and this stuff break out. So you know, we're gonna hear the truth.
But you know, brother, those of us, you know, way back watching Enter the Dragon, you know, and watching Brother Jim Kelly in the movie in the beginning. If people want to understand BKF, watch Enter the Dragon, you know, where Jim Kelly's leaving. That's him, Steve Muhammad, you know, that's the root, that's the beginning of the whole BKF push when you watch that movie and how deep, that part of that movie is. People want to watch this show. They want to, have an opportunity to listen to some of these karatekas, some of these martial artists from the BKF. They're on the show today. So what more could we ask for, okay, in learning about the martial arts from their point of view, okay? It don't get more real than that, bro. And it's what this show offers, okay? What this show offers.
And that's what we're doing here. We're addressing
that's
the culture.
That's what we're doing, brother. Addressing the culture.
We also have a guest, Bilal, brother Bilal. He was on the show, a private show as well. So he's coming back to address the culture as well. And what I'm going to do, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to bring the whole panel on. I like to utilize the time and have the whole panel. Okay. And let's get this going. Let's not hold no punches. Let's get right into it, and we're going to address the culture. No doubt. And we'll be right back. That's what's happening.
Visit AnnasKnickknacks.store. That's AnnasKnickknacks.store. Find all of those things you didn't even know you needed. AnnasKnickknacks.store.
Check out iHipHopTV.com on YouTube.
Right, we back right now. This is it. We address the culture.
That was sudden.
Hey, that's BO. You here? And we addressing the culture. And that's the way we go down. So we got this great panel. And we were talking about the BKF, and now for the viewer's sake, Bilal was on. We'll start with you, Bilal, so you can refresh everybody. It's coming out, so, and then we're going to go into it so we can get into the heritage and the lineage and get the record straight, for the culture, man. We're going to address the culture.
Well, basically, I would just want to preface, because I'm not going to be saying a whole lot on this show about the BKF, but I'm going to preface it with this. In my background, I also trained in Hawaii, so that's why I was on last week's show. So I know a lot about the Hawaiian martial arts. But I want to talk about the BKF as BKF, the Black Karate Federation, to me, is not only a martial art organization, but if we look at it historically and compare it with the macrocosm of our society, it was the first civil rights movement in the martial arts, as far as I'm concerned. And that's the way I see it. That's why it's so important to the culture. And it goes... The thing about also with BKF, we talk about martial arts going with hip hop, but with BKF, we talking about soul music, we talking about P-Funk, and we talking about hip hop. BKF has always adapted itself to those different cultures.
And that's big, and that's why we got to say, bro.
Beautiful.
That's why we
the rest is up to the OGs.
So we have KC Jones, Samuel Pace, and Kamal Hannibal. So we're gonna hit it off with we're gonna get into it. So between Sam and KC, which one of you gentlemen would like to start and give us the background, from you, because I understand that your story is intertwined and combined go way back a long ways in the lineage of the group.
Well, I guess I could start. probably I'm one of the oldest members that started in from the beginning. I was in high school, and to give you a time length, and we used to come out, and on the weekends, I started out in Korean martial arts, Taekwondo, with Donnie Williams. And we would come out on the weekends and work out with Steve Muhammad on the weekends. And there were other people, Jerry Smith and Ron Chappelle, Cliff Stewart.
Yeah.
And in that time, they were forming the BKF. Ron Chappelle, Jerry Smith, and Cliff Stewart. And they brought Steve in because he was a world champion, and they needed his high profile visibility to kind of legitimize everything. And in 1969, seemed like eons ago, they formed the organization. And at that time, they brought in just about all the black martial artists from different systems around the LA and San Gabriel Valley and just about everywhere in the Southern California. And they all came together. And you talk about some workouts.
Yeah.
And even Jim Kelly, we started out training at Manual Arts High School. And Jim Kelly would come down on the weekends, just about anybody. And I think it was 1970, they opened the first school on 103rd and Western. And that was the temple. If you could survive there, you could survive anywhere.
Yeah.
And people that came from 103rd, you knew you could throw down.
Yeah.
And that's putting it mildly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for our viewers and everyone, give us a little history and the backstory on Steve Muhammad, because I'm sure that's a name a lot of people. Some people might have heard it, but they don't know.
Yeah, he gave us our platform to work out. He was there 90% of the time when we were all working out. And everybody wanted to emulate him because of his style of fighting. Unfortunately, I couldn't, but I developed my own. And back then, they would tell you to develop your own style, and pretty much everybody did. And it was just 7 days a week, 9 or 10 hours a day, just of constant training. And it was like being in the military. And Steve's background was he was in the military, Marines. Jerry was in the Marines, and Ron Chappelle, law enforcement. Cliff Stewart was still at UCLA. He later became a highly sought after bodyguard.
Executive protection. Yeah.
Yes.
That's big with all the martial arts.
Best you could get.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I guess that would be the case. The history, everybody has their own executive security within their systems that they operate with.
Yeah. And It was a place that that you could come, and people from all over the country would come drop in. You'd see anybody. You know, one day I came home from school, Richard Pryor sitting in the dojo.
I've heard those stories.
Yeah, you'd see anybody there. Yeah. Not to take up all the time, I'll let somebody else talk.
Yeah, we're going to get through because I'm going to have questions for everybody, especially with there. But KC, kind of like to address the culture on your experience.
Most definitely. I appreciate that. My experience somewhat mirrors what Sam went through. Sam and I both came from the Korean background. I started out with Hapkido and studied under Grandmaster Bang Soo-han initially. One of the students that was also a black belt down there, Bang Soo-han, was also part of the BKF. He had just joined in. Now, I didn't know I was part of the BKF when I was part of the BKF because I used to work out at Harvard Park with, it was Steve Saunders at the time, now Steve Mohammed, and a few other guys. There were quite a few black belts that came down and trained with us. And I'd gotten to the point to where I wanted to, get into an organized school, where you wore a gi and you were on the mat, and that's how I got involved with Hapkido. So I was there for 2 years up until 1970. And in 1970 is when the guy by the name of Henry Scruggs introduced me to the BKF, and that was the place to be. And just like Sam said, it was, I don't think there were really hours when I think back about it, because of course I was a kid. I just was in junior high school, and we would get there in the morning or in late afternoon, and I think we used to work out until either the paramedics came to take us out or we just passed out. just from working out. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember the old Tokaido gis.
Yeah,
the ones that went up to your ankles. Yeah. And the ones that went up to your calves.
Eventually it got there. Yeah, you're right. The same one. But we would wear those gis until, they were saturated. They must have weighed 5 pounds more before we got finished working out. We had, the windows would frost up from, condensation. It was dripping from the ceilings. It was incredible, the workouts we'd had. And I know Sam talked about that we had tough workouts, and they were more, I'll say, like boxing trainer type workouts. Nothing at all like you'd see at a karate studio to this day. As a matter of fact, I believe that instructors to this day would probably get arrested for the things that they used to do to us back then.
Yeah.
So yeah, we had intense workout.
Old school.
Yeah, compared to today.
Old school stuff. And so I want to caveat something too, in that Sam was actually one of my first instructors. He was. It wasn't just Steve Saunders or Steve Mohammed, and it wasn't just Jerry Smith or Cliff Stewart. A lot of the students would actually start out training us. And because there are so many different styles and different techniques and different ways of doing things, I'm not a little guy. I'm like the same size as Sam. Well, I'm a little bit smaller than Sam, but there's no way I was going to emulate a 150-pound man moving around.
Yeah, I hear it. Yeah.
So, yeah. And I don't know if you guys have seen Steve Saunders before. He would hold his hands, and everybody would try to duplicate the way he held his hand. Well, later on in life as an adult, because I was old enough to talk to him, I said, "Why you hold your hands like that?" He said, "Man, I broke every last finger on my hand already."
and you could see it. You could see it.
Yeah, exactly. So it was just like what Sam mentioned in the beginning. We were all trying to emulate this man, but there was no way that. There were a few guys that could emulate what he looked like and how he moved. But that wasn't for everybody. The styles are just like they told us. You create your own style. You do what works for you. And that's why I was part of BKF, because they allowed me to, Bruce Lee said it, be fluid, be like water. And we were doing it long before Bruce was doing it. Okay.
Yeah. And that's the big part. And that's what we want to get to, because You know, we don't. A lot of people, and you know, we don't get that information. And,
Right.
and it's not. You know, glamorized. You know, with the BKF and black martial artists. You know, back in those times. Even you know, they're starting to break through today. You know, and still fighting to get roles as leads, as action hero movies and whatnot.
Yes, sir.
And taking it back then, you know, and we all know what the main issue was with that. So going back then with that, with the racism and the amount of racism, how much, you know, at that time, you know, like fighting in the international, the Long Beach International, where you weren't given points, and you were fighters were given losses when they won, you know, and everything. With all that dealing at that time, you know, how did that affect you?
You know, that was probably one of the most difficult times in my life because, again, you know, as a teen, you don't really understand what's really going on. There are issues. There's issues out there, but we just didn't see it. The other part of it was when BKF came, we came in as an army. There wasn't just like 4 or 5 guys that came. We wind up fighting each other at some point. They would make sure we'd eliminate each other in the beginning. We didn't have that voice. And Steve Saunders talked about it lots of times. And you have to excuse me for calling him Steve Saunders because that's what I came up with. I didn't come up with Steve Muhammad. I respect him and I accept that his name is Muhammad. But Steve would talk about that he didn't have a voice during tournaments. When we started going, we had those 3 founders plus Steve and anybody else. You know, Curtis Pulliam was there and Carl Armelin as well too. But if there was something wrong, they would go out there on the floor. And I see, of course, we didn't know what was going on. And they would stop the ring and they would have a conversation with the arbitrator or the judges. And if they didn't get the right answer, they would look up to the stands where there's probably like 100 BKF members. And all of them stand up and go, you know, oh, and all of a sudden it's okay, we changed our mind. We'll fix it. We'll get it done.
Right.
So I mean that helped a whole lot. It helped. It meant a whole lot to say. It helped us to step in a tournament and be more comfortable and confident that they were going to do it right, or they were going to deal with a stand full of guys.
Yeah.
Right. See, that's big, and to
That's
have
gangster.
that many brothers there. Yeah, that's gangster. To have that many brothers there, you know, at one spot. You do that today, they have the National Guard, the state police, everybody else.
Yeah, they would.
And
A few times there were.
Yeah.
there
Oh,
were.
yeah. See. Yeah. Oh,
There
yeah.
were.
See. So
Yeah.
we know. So tell us about that. Those situations too, as tied in as a part of the, you know, the oppression, because of course Hollywood wasn't opening the doors the way they should have been. You know,
We would walk into a tournament with briefcases.
Yeah.
Briefcases, and
Legendary.
they'd ask us, why do you have a briefcase? Because we're here to take care of business.
Yep.
The uniforms would be in the briefcase.
Yeah.
And I think Steve started that tradition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is deep. Show up. Hey,
Deep.
it's real. It's real. We showing
Yeah.
up. For
Yeah.
It's real. You know. So go ahead, Sam. Go ahead, Casey.
I just want to jump on top of what Sam just said just now. That is so true. We did that and it scared people. So what I'm going to share with you is we'd get to some tournaments and there were a lot of white people that came there to compete. They were going to fight. And when we walked in the door, they packed up their stuff and they would leave.
Wow. Wow.
And
That is deep.
that's the God's honest truth. They would leave. Whatever fees they paid for fighting, they would leave them on the table, right?
Yeah. Wow. Wow. But you know, and then, like you said, they would have you facing off against one another. You know, they pair you up against one another. You know, to wing it down to whoever was left.
Yeah.
You know, and whoever makes beating on each other. You know, so
Yeah. Well, we had our plans for that too. You know, we'd shift around. I was a middleweight, but I usually, just to avoid fighting the other guys. and till I turned into a heavyweight.
I got to tell this one story about you, Sam. When I was running the dojo on Lemert Park, Sam came in with I guess it was a private student or something, right? But he was a big dude.
Yeah.
And, I was watching him train, and the guy started throwing kicks at Sam. Sam didn't even block. He just walked up to the dude. And the guy was throwing some solid kicks. I was like, and I looked at him and said, you know what? I was going to spar with him, but I changed my mind.
So you ain't feel like it that day, huh? Got some more training.
He had a smile on his face. And I told my boss that I was going to ask to spar with him, but I changed my mind, bro.
You know, for me, being, you know, the younger one in this group, I came up in you know, start training under Cjo in the 80s, in the late 80s, primarily through the nation. And prior to that, I was Gosoku-Ru, Takeyoki Kubuta's system.
Yeah.
And so, you know, coming in there and I'm whooping on cats and I'm thinking I'm Billy Bad, but you know, and when I hit the mat, you know, with the brothers at the BKF, I'm like, oh man, everybody in here can fight. And it totally changed my whole perspective. And I didn't know what it was I was dealing with, because I didn't know, number one, how much of a legend this man had became. You know, I remember coming home with I think it may have been Black Belt Magazine or Inside Karate, one of them, and there was a picture of you know, well, a lot of y'all call him Papa, but we call him Brother Steve, but you know, or Cjo. And there was a picture of him, and I'm like, whoa, you know, that's my instructor, you know, and he's inside of this magazine, and then I started seeing him on you know, some of I believe it was Karate Kid and all these different movies, and I grew up, you know, listening to all of the different legendary stories. Some, you know, have been changed, manipulated, and then some were just right on point, you know what I mean? And it made me realize what I was a part of, you know, and just, you know, like, you know, I always, when I come around, you know, Master Casey and, you know, Master Pace, it's like, wow, these dudes were real, you know what I mean? And over the years, I've been blessed to move with them, train with a lot of them, you know, and just hear some of the stories over and over again. You know, I remember we would be at the dojo and listening to some of the stories that Abdul Latif had, you know, and I'm like, man, so that stuff was real? Y'all really did that? You know, that really happened? You know what I mean? And so, I mean, this stuff was like urban legend, you know what I mean? You would hear and just the sheer struggle, you know what I mean, that we, you know, the BKF, you know, went through just to be, you know, who we were, you know, Black martial artists, you know what I mean, trying to compete, you know, on the martial arts scene. And I remember, you know, looking at this and I'm like, man, I can't live up to these guys' shoes. These dudes were, you know, were warriors, you know what I mean, on a whole different level, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
and that's what
I
we
remember,
need to see.
you know, starting to compete. Yeah.
Legacy.
And I remember starting to compete on my own. And
oh, brother, he fell out.
Hey,
He'll come back in.
The difference.
He's right though. He's like, listen to the stories and be like, I mean, I came up around that time. I was like a color belt, but I was in Texas. I kind of missed out on all the fun there. I got there like in 2009, and I got to meet these guys, and they were my heroes at that time anyway. You know, when I met KC, I was like, oh, he's just like a regular guy. Like, I thought you. I mean, he was a really warm. He was like, he had a smile on his face. He talked to me like I was his peer. I was like really, really like humbled by that. I'm like, this guy is like a hero of mine, and he's treating me like an equal. You know,
he reached that enlightenment already.
And then Master Faith, you was intimidating. You intimidated me, bro, because you always had the smile on your face.
Purpose.
And you would set a dude up. I mean, he would set a dude straight with that smile on his face. Like with that smile. He's still smiling. Like, he's gonna kill this guy.
I've been around for a long time.
Like, when he come in the door, I'm like, you the bastard. Whatever you got, whatever you want, you go get it.
Come back.
Yeah.
No.
But we train for survival.
Yes.
You know, you walk out the door on 103rd Street, you don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, where most people just train karate, we train to live. You know, to keep us alive. So I think that made a big difference for us. Yeah. Tournaments were just for us were just somewhere where we could fight somebody other than ourselves, and or being in the school, you know, or to see how your techniques really work.
Mm-hmm.
So you go to a tournament. Tournaments today are a lot different than when I was coming up.
Yeah, quite different. I mean, I remember I pretty much was under the same system as you guys in the early days, and it was bare knuckles and bare feet back in those days. I remember getting clocked with real fists and getting kicked with real heels and side feet. And then they started wearing the protection. Then you couldn't sweep anymore. And that was my bread and butter back in tournament days, sweeping you off your feet. They took that away.
Nowadays it's like tag.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And that was my next question too. Compared, I mean, and you already discussed, you know, the training, the physical aspects of the training you went through as compared to today. But what are some of the things that you're seeing in the evolution of it with the MMA and the UFC?
For me, it started out in full contact, and after full contact, you know, full contact was my solution for them not being able to cheat me. If I could knock him out, you know, he's out, and obviously I won. You know? And the evolution from full contact is now what you see they have is MMA. But I'm not, if I was young, I would probably be doing it. But being old and thinking about it, it's going to be a lot of pugs around in the near future. A lot of that, what do they call that? Concussion.
Oh, yeah.
Protocol, yeah.
It's going to be a lot of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, today. Yeah. And it probably happened back then, but they couldn't identify it, you know.
Yeah. They didn't know what it was back then.
They didn't know. Yeah, exactly. Right. They didn't have a pulse on that yet.
Yeah.
So
a lot of when I was coming up, it was the closest thing to real fighting is you could get.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The way to work out.
And on the street, you find out it really works.
Yeah. Or in the street, you find out it don't work.
Yeah.
One of the two.
A whole bunch of people found that out.
Well, hey, all you gentlemen look great to me. So it looks like y'all always had the, you know, it always worked out in your favor anyway, you know, with the training and time. Let's go into some of your systems, you know, and you had talked about it earlier in your lineage. Like today, you know, where can people, you know, if they want to go learn your system, is there certain dojos in the city? I assume it's all in California, correct?
Well, where I am, It's in California. Our main school is in Leimert Park. Bilal, you know about.
Yeah, I used to teach there. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's our main school. And Lateef Ferguson teaches there. Probably you guys know him as Lenny Ferguson. And he was the first black international champion.
You know, the interesting thing about you guys is their backgrounds. Like each one of you guys came from an accomplished school or accomplished instructors. I mean, even Lateef come from Ark Wai Wong, who introduced Kung Fu to the African American community back then. And it's interesting if I ask each of y'all your background, each one of y'all have a legitimate and very honored background.
Yes.
Before you even came into BKF.
Yeah.
You know.
Yes.
So that's one of the things I like. I mean that I find really interesting.
Yeah.
Is the level of excellence you had when you came. You know.
Yeah, but being in that kind of environment, you got to learn different systems. You know, I think our base system is Kempo, but we don't really know. We don't really do Kempo. We do a little bit of it all. You know?
Right.
There's Kung Fu. There's Taekwondo, Hapkido, Goju-Ryu. You name it.
Yeah.
And you know, you learned it from somebody. You know, if your classmate, you know, fighting your classmate, I could use this in my arsenal. So it's, I guess you could call it a gumbo system. You know, there's a little bit of everything in it.
Yeah, and that's the same I've been
finding. But it works
with all the different traditional groups with that. They got their own system. They incorporate and and that's great. You know, I mean, these guys don't know. Even with Bilal and Darren, you know, that to have you guys on the platform talking about it and for people to see it, you know, I think it's going to open them up. And that's my thing, because, and I know you guys see it being active with Dojo's audience, with the undisciplined young men that we have on the streets today, and the stuff that goes on, and with all the killings, and where people you don't live to come back from that. You know, I call it that video game culture. That it's that video.
I wanted to add to that we're talking about it in title generation too.
Yes.
You know, the heart. I'm gonna tell you like this. When I go to, I only teach one student now. I kind of got out of teaching, mainly because it's just too many rules at this point. You like, and you're worried about getting sued half the time. Like it's crazy. Like when I was at Leimert Park, my biggest issue wasn't the students; it was the parents.
Yeah.
It was never the students; it was always the parents trying to tell me how to teach. Like this one guy came up to me one time. He had a kid that was perfect. The kid was perfect. Well, I'm gonna chastise a perfect kid, right? So I'm chastising the other kid who was the opposite, trying to get him straight. The dad comes up to me and says, "You don't do that for my kid." I'm like, "Oh, so you want me to punish your kid for nothing?" I'm like, "Well, he's soft." So no, he's just doing things the right way. It doesn't make him soft. It makes you should be proud that this kid knows how to focus and knows how to do things the right way. He's not soft. And I had to explain that to the parent. Like, sometimes they bring their kids here to be punished. Well, that's not my job, not to just punish them. I'm supposed to teach them character. Am I correct, fellas?
Yeah.
You know, so my issue was never with the students, always with the parents, man.
Yeah, they it's like the soccer moms or whatever they call them. I'll give you an example. I was at a tournament in Laughlin. It was a Ted Tabura tournament.
Okay.
And I walked. I saw this little kid crying, and I said, "What's the matter?" He said he was fighting and he didn't win a trophy. He said, "You want a trophy?" I said, "I'll win you a trophy." And so I fought and gave him the trophy. And his father came screaming at him, "Where'd you get that trophy? Where'd you get that trophy?" And then the kid pointed at me and I said, "I gave it to him. You know, he can have it." And he starts, that going crazy. And I said, "Do you do karate?" And he said, "No." I said, "Well, what do you know about it?" I said, "It's just a kid, get over it."
Yeah.
But parents get a little too crazy,
That's
But then some of them see the benefits of it and start training themselves.
Yeah, that's true too. I've seen that.
Yeah.
They don't want
I've
them
seen
kids
that.
to grow up and start laying hands on them.
Yeah,
So they try to keep up with them because that's the way it goes. And we're gonna get in, and we're gonna get into that part of it too. Come on, flip your camera, please, for me. Flip your screen back.
Okay.
We got you. There you go.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay.
Yeah, it's better.
To add to that, I've had parents who are literally turning their children into bullies. And disciplining them because they didn't win or
that's another.
they didn't allow. They let a student hit them or get points in on them. I had Bilal. Remember we used to go to Pacheco's tournaments all the time.
Yeah.
Rabbit blessed us with coming over to one of my in-school tournaments at one time, and he had a parent that had just started with him. And
okay, I was there.
You remember that, right? And I mean, the boy was basically he was hurting everybody. You know what I mean? And my niece Amelia, we had these little, I couldn't, coach or what have you because I'm busy running the tournament. But I noticed that this kid is he playing for keeps. You know what I mean? And I said, man, this young man has the nature of a bully. So I gave instructions to my niece, and she ended up putting a hurting on the young man. And the little boy took that strike and it was like he kind of snapped out of it for a second.
He lost it.
So.
Hey, let me interject. Let me interject. He hit him with the perfect spinning the spinning sidekick. It was the most perfect spinning sidekick I ever seen in my life. I wanted to give him some money for that.
But I ended up seeing the young man at Pacheco's tournament the following day, and because they all babies and we all from the same system, so I'm gonna give love and I'm gonna give tutelage whenever I can. And I saw him and he was struggling through his match, so I pulled him to the side and I put something in his ear. And the father comes up to me and he says, when I walked into your dojo, I didn't have no respect for you, but after what the little girl did, you earned my respect. And I looked at him and I said, sir, listen to me. Teaching your son how to be a bully, is not a good thing. I said, because it's going to always be somebody there that's going to answer, that's going to have an answer for him. You know what I mean? Yeah. I said, warriorship, it's not just kicking and punching. You know what I mean? You got to give them, moral character and so on and so forth. And then he couldn't believe that I was giving tutelage to his son the very next day. I said, man, I'm an instructor in the martial sciences. We don't have time to be, I don't have no animosity against your son. He's a young warrior. And if I see something that can help him, then that's my job to do just that. And you know, you can tell that the brother looked at me and he did not understand what I was trying to impart to him. You know, and I knew that this man is teaching this young man to be, you know, a bully. You know what I mean? You know,
He's talking
and
about
that's
the
the way
father, he's talking about the father, not Rabbit, because Rabbit gave that boy a good talking to at the dojo.
Oh no, not Rabbit, not Rabbit. I'm talking about the father.
Rabbit was on top of his game, man. On that day, that little boy went off. Rabbit was like, "Oh no, dude, you're not doing that here."
Yeah. We had actually talked about that. You know what I mean? Afterwards, and you know, him and I. You know, that's one I wish could be a part of this talks. You know, Rabbit was one of those ones that I learned a lot from over the years. You know,
he didn't kill you.
Huh?
I'm surprised he didn't kill you.
He did have a tendency there.
That's the Rabbit. That's the Rabbit.
Yeah, he ain't no joke.
No, he ain't. I think I'm at a meeting one time with he was talking to somebody, and you had to tell him to be quiet, Sam.
Yeah, he's
about to get down with somebody, and the only person he listened to was Sam. Sam said, "Shut up," and he shut up. I'm like, "Shut up."
Yeah, he's
just a shirt. Oh, go ahead.
He'll fight at the drop of a hat.
Yeah. That's the Rabbit.
Yeah, cold warrior, you know. But I love him. I love him. That's my brother.
Yeah. You know where you stand with him too. You know where you stand with him too. He ain't got a fake bone in his body.
Yeah.
So what I want to do is talk about the, you know, we talked about the Long Beach International, and that was like the place where you can go, you know, and like you said, fight somebody other than your own team, you know, if you was lucky to at that time. Now, I've heard the stories of some events that occurred there that, like we talked about earlier, with the National Guard, and I mean, it just drew everyone out, you know, and it became a big event. I would like to go back and take
that legendary one.
yeah, a legendary one. I like to go back and take our viewers through that, you know, and what went on. And this was the times. And if you look around, those times are still the times. You know, I mean, certain things have progressed, but a lot of things, you know, are still the same. You know, but with that specific incident, you know, take us back to it. What happened? What set it off? And tell us what happened.
Yeah. The international were like the Olympics of martial arts. Yeah. And when you know, it was a prestigious thing to win there, you know. From the early days, people came from all over the world, all over the country to fight in their international. And you saw some of the best fighters there. You know, you saw the Joe Lewis's, Bill Wallace, Jerry Pennington, you know, that's just a name of outside people that weren't in the BKF. Then you had us. You know,
yeah.
You know, epic battles.
Sir, did you come along the times when Vic Moore was on the mat?
No, he was before me. He was in the 60s. I saw him, but I was a kid when Vic Morrow.
So we're talking about the 70s.
Yeah. Basically, when my competition was in the 70s to, I think I retired in '89 from competition.
Hey, just a little caveat to that Sam did mention. So when we competed, when we fought other adults. We fought adults. We were kids fighting.
Y'all were kids, right?
We were in our teens, and we're fighting guys, you know, 25 and 30 years old.
Yeah, but that's what we can't do.
And y'all was whooping them too, right? Y'all was whooping them up left and right.
Yeah.
We
these
if I
guys
can say
are
it, we kicked some
in high
ass.
school.
Yeah, talk your shit. That's what I'm talking about.
We kicked some ass out there.
There was a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
Well, from
When
what
we
I
got
was
there,
taught,
we came to fight.
from what I was taught traditionally, because I remember, I came up, of course, behind you all, but we would fight everybody. You know what I mean? From young to old, and
You have to.
that was how you honed your skills. You know what I mean? Especially with because I come out of my I began training with the 43rd Street. I think it was 43rd and Crenshaw.
In Dagnan.
Behind at the boxing gym in the back.
Oh no, that was 54.
54th, yes sir.
Not 54, but 48.
54. 48. Yeah.
I was 43rd in Crenshaw.
Yeah, they are mixing up the numbers, but that's where I began, and we, that was some traditional training, where we fought everybody. I mean, it was young and old getting it in, and I remember getting it was some vicious battle.
Right, and it's not that way today, right? And I want to make that clear to the audience too. It's not that way today. Everything's age groups and brackets and everything else today. Yeah. You're talking about 15, 16-year-old teenagers going, like you said, fighting 25-year-old grown men. Yeah. They don't even let black youth go straight from high school to basketball or football or anything like that. At that time, what they got. The only thing is baseball and hockey, if you want. I mean, we're kind of out of it. And in martial arts, the same thing. Back then, you're fighting in the international as a 15, 16-year-old, and you're winning. That moves you get rankings and established and stuff in those tournaments too.
Back then, you had to travel. You had to travel to different states, and being a teenager, we had to. Somebody might have a car or have their mother's car, and we'd have to pile in and travel, put our money together and travel to different tournaments.
Right.
My first black belt tournament, the first fight I had, I fought Al Dacascos.
Wow. Oh, wow.
And I went to Steve, and Al Dacascos had a name then. And I went to Steve and I said, Steve, I got to fight Al Dacascos. And I expected some kind of coaching. He looked at me, you better win, and walked away.
I won. That's better. And you won too, huh?
I won.
But that's how our teachers were.
Go back to the school and explain why you didn't.
That's how our teachers were back then. They were hardcore guys. They was ex-military dudes. They didn't take no excuses. If you had an excuse, you may as well walk out the door.
That's what we had coming up. Ex-military guys. That was like, nah, I don't want to hear it. Let's go.
The people ask me if I was.
I tell people all the time.
I will say, yeah.
I tell people all the time. Because it's funny you mentioned earlier about executive protection. That's my business. I own a security company, and it's because of C-Joe and Cliff Stewart, and all of those men. I mean, C-Joe gave me my first security job. And the military style training, and Bilal and I talk about this, a lot. I was getting training that I had no clue would benefit me later on. You know what I mean? Because we were learning everything within that class. You know what I mean? At that time, he was a police officer, so we were getting, paramilitary style training, Marine. Everything was, Marine style, and I was learning formations in there, and this is stuff that I teach to my guys still to this day, and I didn't realize the impact, that they had on me. And then, later coming up, it was almost like I had no choice but to become a professional warrior, because what we were getting and what was being imparted. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You know, and then having, sir.
You're lucky it didn't come up with us.
Yeah.
You know, no, but see, here's the thing. I would hear those stories, and I would say the same thing.
Jerry Smith was a DI in the Marines, and whenever he had that DI hat on, you knew it was trouble.
Yeah.
It was going to be a hard workout.
You know, I think that was universal for all schools, though, because I remember training under Keosha Dixon. Those workouts were no joke, bro. They're like, I'd come home to my wife with have one eye closed, and she just shake her head. I was even it was great, but I got one eye closed. I got a black eye, bloody lip. She just look at me, shake her head, and go in the kitchen.
Yeah. Now I know back in those times too, there was some hot shot Hollywood people or some high profile people that one of y'all had to bust up. Who was busted up? Who was busted up? You know, who was?
I ain't never had to bust nobody up.
I worked on a movie set. And
I heard this one before.
Richard Gere's. I was Lou Gossett's stunt double. And Richard Gere was doing his own stunts, and I did a crescent kick and went over his head. And they asked me if I could make it look more real. I said, if I make it look more real, it's going to hit him. And Richard Gere goes, "Go ahead, do it. So I do the crescent kick, and it hits him so hard, he pancakes and lands on his back. And I thought I killed him. But I messed up the scene. But he had a goose egg on his head.
Yes, Ford, he got it.
But he took me to dinner that night.
I don't know my stuff. I never had to beat up nobody famous, but I did have a lot of. And Kamal can actually testify to this. I had a lot of issues with dudes coming in off the street. Was you there that day I broke that guy's nose? Or did I
was. I was there.
Someone coming off the street into the dojo asking for it?
Well,
you know, that's
the guy comes in and challenged, did the old school dojo challenge, basically. And for some reason, Bilal had just came into the BKF, and I guess he decided to pick him out of all people. And, you know, and he ended up putting a hurting on a dude, you know what I mean?
Wrong one. Yeah, the wrong one.
Well, the guy was going, but we've always learned this: use speed, but also learn how to go as fast as your opponent. This guy was fast, but he was over fast. So I was able to just let him go. I just kept backpedaling, and then I just froze, and he spun. He didn't look, and I just held my fist out, and he spun right into my fist and broke his nose.
So you trying to say he broke his own nose?
I got a lot of stories like that. Yeah, he broke his own nose pretty much. That's what happened. He broke his own nose. But I mean, I got a lot of stories about that. Crips coming in, challenging me in the middle of the night when I'm the only one in the dojo. You know, stuff like that.
And then ending up trying to get him to teach them afterwards.
Yeah. No, dude. I don't teach thugs, bro. I don't teach criminals, bro.
That's a question that I want to have, you know, and I'm lay that out there to everybody that's still instructing teach. Are you finding people are coming in insincerely to learn to harm people? You already spoke about the parent, you know, with that, but I'm just talking about like as adults, you know, or you know, young adults coming in to learn and that's taking it to the street to do harm instead of good with what they've done. Of course, it probably happens. You can't control people's personalities or natures once they leave that dojo.
I had one student like that. Anthony Willis. Remember him?
Yeah, I remember.
He was like that. he wanted to come in and learn how to hurt people.
Well, I got a story similar that was very interesting. I had two federal police officers come and train with me, but they, for some reason, I don't know why, but they told me that they were postal workers. You know, and I think I told you about this, Bilal. I ended up I was at the Social Security office one day, and this lady basically just throws a nutty, for lack of better words, and the in-house security officer had to take her down. But this lady gave this man a serious run for his money, and she was a little bitty Indian lady, and it was almost embarrassing. So he finally gets her down, cuffs her, and then they call the federal. You know, I guess the Social Security Administration is connected to, I guess the federal. So the federal police came to take her into custody, and it was these two gentlemen. And I looked at them and I said, man, those don't look like postal uniforms. So I said, well, what was the sense in lying? I mean, I'm, as I've trained and worked with, several law enforcement over the years. So what was the purpose of, one of them came and he, up to my school. At that time I had a school in Altadena. And he says, well, we had to keep our identity. I said, man, you're uniformed. How much of an secret identity can you have? But the guy goes on to tell me that he felt that he needed more of a hard style martial art, to accompany the training that they had received. And I thought that was just interesting. It also made me kind of leery of, of some of my students, and it made me.
Yeah. Did they pay you?
Yeah.
Did they pay for the training that they got from you?
Yeah, they paid. Yeah. But I ended up dismissing them once I found out that they weren't telling me the truth.
Yeah, because they'll use it against our, us. That's what happens with a lot. I know a lot of people that train military and train police, and I know people that refuse because they just know they're going to use it, in the communities against his own people, So they kind of stay away from that, So that will be now coming from back in the times, and I'm, and I'm getting back with KC and Sam and Bilal and everything for those times, because I like to show the respect to our audience and stuff that's following and gathering.
Yes, sir.
Especially with this right here, and Kamal, you're in the building, So
yes, sir.
Whenever events happen like the Philly International, and you was talking about fighting people that were known, was there always well-known fighters that come in as young and been going through? You fought and defeated well-known fighters that that might have been ranked in the world and everything else, and nobody knew who you was, or your rank was way down the pole. You come in and just do some ass kicking, and just take some out. So has that happened with either you or with the BKF members going up?
It used to happen almost every night.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. They had to.
On 103rd. One night. One night, Joe Louis came in, and
I heard about that one too.
Him and Donnie Williams had a banging contest, and it was like thunder every time they hit each other. Yeah, but we would get everybody coming down because they know that's where they could get a real fight.
Right,
coming down, like and people would come off the street. They had one guy come in off the street, and he wanted to sign up for lessons.
Yeah.
So Steve asked him, you want to watch? I said, no, I want I want to see how it works against street fighting. And that night, everybody was there. Everybody was there. It was. I think I was still a brown belt then, and I said, "This guy's gonna get murdered." I said, I hope he picked Jerry." And that's when Jerry was still suffering from PTSD. And he walked past everybody and picked me. And I looked at Steve. Steve said, "Get out there and get on the floor with him." And long story short, he crawled off the mat.
Wow.
Signed up, paid his money, and never came back.
That's a lot. Now, in that time, especially coming up in that 70s period, the Bruce Lee sensation hit, right?
Yeah.
And then everybody was enamored. Yunz already put y'all work in, right?
Right.
Or was in the process of putting y'all work in.
Right.
So how did that, when that era hit, when Bruce Lee hit and started blowing up, what happened? What was the atmosphere? What was going on? I know you had to get challenged. I know somebody said, "Man, I'm going to go see Bruce."
Yeah. Well, people started signing up for karate in mass droves.
Yeah.
You know, it just before when I was coming up, you didn't see that many black people, and that's what made the BKF so appealing to me, because there were other black people in karate that I would see, and I would see them only at tournaments. And then when the BKF started, we were all under one roof, and so that was a Bruce Lee appeal. But he would come down to 103rd in secret, but I was at school when he would come down, so I never did see him. But I would hear that he came down from Joe and Roland Talton, that they would always work out together.
That's big.
Yeah.
But yeah, once he hit, so it made business good, at that era to come in. He was the boost to the business, just like the UFC and MMA, I think, boost a lot of the business.
Right.
With the current status of martial arts,
Yeah.
Are you guys still involved at that level with it today?
I'm not. We're both teaching and working out, trying to stay halfway in shape.
Yeah.
But we're mainly running the organization now. Our main focus is helping the youth.
The youth, right?
It's good.
That's big. Yeah, that's important. That's really important, and that's a message we got to get. So whatever you have to get out there. How many members do you have, and do you have any information that can be, shared with us, that we could share with youth and other organizations? Because I'm sure there's some dojo on the cross down from here that some brothers trying to maintain that would like to be a member for that type of support, just to try to grow that dojo. So we would definitely love to have that info.
Casey?
Yeah, sure. I'm glad you asked that question, because that's important. We are building and growing. And you guys all know that, we just had this pandemic just recently with this terrible disease. So most of us have lost our brick and mortar locations in order to teach. So we're doing it, and back to the old days. We're back in doing it in the living room, in the backyard, or meeting at parks.
The basement.
However, you can contact us at bkfkarate.org, and all the information would be there for you. And you can sign up, you can become a member, become an affiliate, and we offer discounts for tournaments. We're working on lodging and transportation as well, because all those things were part of being a karate school, is to get from point A to point B for a tournament, have some place to stay. And back in old school days, since we're talking old school, back in the day, you would bring a blanket and just lay out on a mat at their karate school.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, bkfkarate.org will get you there.
Or you could email us at bkfwarrior 103rd @gmail.com.
Oh, let me check that. Let me check that address I gave you. I apologize. I think it's bkfwarrior.org. I am sorry. I apologize. 2 different sites we have going on.
Okay. I think I've seen it or been on it. I think I have. I know I've seen that. The warrior part, what you said, warrior, the light came on and struck, and I think I've been in touch with that. But yeah, we
all of our
definitely
faces are there.
Yeah, we definitely want to share and keep that going because I think that's important to the youth for the discipline, like we had mentioned before, with the murders and them that's randomly killing each other, but we can't stop it all because there's a lot more beyond that. But to grab some, to turn them around and let them know, hey, you can live to fight another day if you have to, and you don't gotta go use that gun. That even when you win in that situation, you lose because you're giving your life away.
Yeah. You're taking a life and giving yours away.
Yeah.
Amen.
And then you affect everybody that's related to you or in the other family.
Yeah. And that's one of those things that we gotta, we want to talk about on Address the Culture. We're all about that, all things culture, for that information to get out there to reach our youth, to reach, the black and brown kids and everybody out there that, that want to come in and accept and embrace, the culture, because it's a lifestyle. You guys, and that's what I like to tell the audience and the viewers, like with Darren and the FMA series and Bilal and the Hawaiian Marshal and Kamal, and with you gentlemen, that's all a culture, your way of life,
Yes, a warrior life, yeah.
Yeah, that warrior life, and you take it and you run with it. And the warrior life these youth are getting today is from video games and stuff purposely put there to try to get them to destroy themselves.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And
the biggest battle for me, for teaching over the years, is trying to get the parents to understand just what you said, and trying to get them to understand the importance of why it's good and important for their child to train. Because a lot of my issues with teaching would evolve around the parents making sure that the children would, get to class on time and practiced or were efficient with what I had to, with the training.
Yeah.
And the biggest battle, was the parents. It was not the children per se. It was, because for me, martial arts was it fed me. It kept me out of trouble, because I was always a warrior. I was a warrior, by nature, and I needed somewhere to park it. You know what I mean? And to release that I don't know what you would call it, but
according to a kinfolk of his, he was a strong-willed boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
In essence, yes, sir. You know what I mean? And I see this prevalent in a lot of the youth today. If they just had the vehicle, you know what I mean? And because I was made to go to class. Wasn't no ifs, ands, buts about it. It was happening. You know what I mean? And then I remember when he started training us in Pasadena, it was really I really didn't have a choice then. I literally, there was no ifs, ands, buts about it. But I'm thankful for that. And today's youth, to me, is missing that. They are. And it's hurtful. You know what I mean? It's hurtful because, I wouldn't have done it any other way. I'm so thankful for, the BKF as a whole. I'm thankful for you guys coming before us and giving us, a culture, a warrior culture, a legendary, culture to continue. You know what I mean? Because I mean, let's call
exactly
a spade, man. BKF was legendary. I mean, and still legendary. And if it were not for the Steve Muhammad's of the world, for me, I personally wouldn't have done the things that I've done. Even just I remember going to the tournaments with my students, and they see us coming there with the gi stuck into our pants.
Yeah.
And that alone, I kid you not, that alone created. Huh?
When you had the gi stuck in your pants, you guys knew who you were. They knew who you were.
Yeah. That
right away. That's BKF coming in the door right now.
And nobody else, you know what I mean? And you knew what was going down, you know what I mean? And it's just stuff like that, and then carrying on to tradition. We walk in, the single file, military line, and I remember what my daughter.
That I want to touch on. And I'm sorry, Kamal.
Yes, sir. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I want to talk because you're touching on all the points for that time because you honored that respect with them coming up. I am too because she had the Vietnam War going on. You had the Black Panther surge going on. Mm-hmm. You had everything else going on at that time. Unlike today, the stuff that then was shaping stuff for today. And
yes,
lead up to the day, like you said before, because those loud, but because those
things, it's not me this time.
Yeah, because those things right there go hand in hand. With the Vietnam era and with the Black Panther movement, was there ever any run-ins, or there was like a method? So I like to hear about that run-ins with the Black Panther Party.
We had Black Panther members.
That's what I would think too. There would be members that were Black Panther.
Geronimo Pratt. I personally taught his nieces, and the Hilliard, in charge of the Los Angeles Black Panther Party.
David Hilliard.
He was a member, and his nephews, who are still members. But I hear Hilliard has dementia.
Yeah.
That's sad.
That's big, and we definitely, need that in the culture, And Kamal, you said you out there with the personal too, and you got a dojo too. You training out of too. You train students, so you're in touch.
Right now, I'm mainly my training is more so to executive protection agents.
Okay.
Because I have a company, so I do a lot of training of my guys.
Okay.
I closed my school in Pasadena. No, excuse me, in LA. But that was 20.
No.
Oh man.
2012.
2010?
No, 2012 was 2010 because I got here.
Okay.
It was on in 2011.
Okay.
And I left LA.
Ironically, my school was down the street from the old Sheenway location.
Oh, okay.
77th and Broadway.
On Broadway, yeah.
And then I moved. I didn't stop teaching then. I started with the Department of Recreation after that. And then I taught at a school called Harambe in Pasadena, which Master Haru actually used to teach there as well.
Wow, that's my old
before
class.
He moved to
your old classmate.
Yes, sir.
Haru was my classmate. He was when I started, he was already a black belt.
Wow.
Beautiful brother, beautiful.
And he is missed. He is dearly missed.
Mm-hmm. He is. To reiterate, I've just been blessed to be around some amazing an amazing brotherhood through the BKF, you know, and it served as a catapult from, you know, for my martial art, you know, career as a whole, because training with the BKF, I eventually, you know how it is, you start filling your holes, so to say, you know what I mean, and going into different styles and systems and you know, and so, but the base that it gave me was so strong, you know, it just made me thirsty. It just made me thirsty, you know. And
probably
I
make
mean,
lifelong friends and brothers.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
When I first got to LA, I got from Hawaii. I was like, where's the BKF dojo? I didn't want to go nowhere else. And then they turned me on to the Leimert Park dojo. At the time, Ahmad Reese was the owner. And went down there, and actually, you know, that day I got in a fight with that guy, broke his nose. That's when they hired me to be the manager.
Yeah, I remember. But you know, just to piggyback,
hired me on the spot after that.
To piggyback on that, you know, that man over there is real humble, Bilal. You know, probably one of the most humblest cats that I know in terms of the martial arts. You know, him and I, we had the pleasure of teaching the youth in LA together, you know, for the LA Unified School District. And just to be able to go back into the community and deal directly with youth, you know, is what the BKF actually, you know, was all about and what it stood for.
Very rewarding.
Trying to reach.
We're still involved with youth. We have a lot of programs going. We have a suicide prevention program. We have anti-bullying programs, and we're still expanding into it. We even have a gun club.
Yeah.
That's good. I mean, that's modern.
You know, I'm a second.
They can have it. We can have it.
Let me put some on that one. Let me put some on that one. I was 12 years old, okay, and I remember this. I remember this clearly. I was woken up at about 7 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, and you know, to wake up early on a Saturday was something coming up. And I was told to get dressed, get in the car. We drive way out to I want to say it was San Bernardino, and Cjo. When we pull up, Cjo is there, and he had this pillowcase full of 38s. And I didn't know what was in the bag initially. He gave me, you know, we got out and we were, you know, it was members of the, you know, the Fruit and other members of the BKF, and he gave me this pillowcase and he said, "Hold this." And I remember holding. I'm like, God dang, this is heavy. To make a long story short, my first time shooting was with him. We went, you know, we were at the range. I think it was way out in San Bernardino somewhere, and it was my first time learning to shoot, and we fired 38 caliber pistols, you know, and that was my first introduction to shooting, you know, was with him, you know, and just the, you know, sheer warriorship period, you know. I got it. I wouldn't be in this business today if it wasn't for the BKF and Steve Muhammad. I'm just being straight up with you, you know.
That's big. I mean, that's really big, because there's not a lot, you know, for Black youth today that they have.
Yes, sir.
You know, so
yes,
you know,
sir.
definitely, I'm going to be directing people to the organization. You know, other dojos that I run across here in this area, to push them to the unify. You know, to bring them in, and maybe they, you know, with y'all backgrounds and knowledge, y'all can help guide them in the future in their communities. You know, like Darren does in Stockton with his Screamer. the Stockton disciples did. Like
what is what, sir? With his what?
He has the Screamer Stockton disciples from Angel Cabales.
Filipino martial arts.
Filipino martial arts. Screamer.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Serrano and Screamer. My teacher was the late Grandmaster Angel Cabales. That's how I met the late Cliff Stewart. He'd come on down with Graciela Casillas and train under my teacher too. So,
awesome. That's what I'm talking about. I had the pleasure of meeting her a few times. Matter of fact, at the Lamert Park School.
Okay.
Graciela? Yeah.
Oh, Graciela,
yeah, we've had her on
the show. She's been on the show. Yeah,
she's been on the show. She was also a headliner for Legacy 8 San Carlos.
Yeah.
But she goes way back. Brother Sultan Dean also helped teach Graciela, and also worked with Cliff Stewart too. I believe in executive protection too. Way back. But
so do you know? Do you know Don Shabazz?
Who?
Don Shabazz.
Don Shabazz. No.
One of Guru Cliff's students who was heavy in the war program.
No.
I think Staunton does. I heard that.
I communicated with the late Cliff almost up until he passed away. Matter of fact, when I started the Filipino martial arts for Long Beach and Disney martial arts, late Cliff Stewart, he came and he was a guest of mine to watch the Filipino martial arts too. But I had the opportunity to run into him at the Whipping Willow. I don't know if you guys have ever attended the Whipping Willow.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's after several years, after my teacher passed away, that's the only time I ran into the late Cliff Stewart was the Whipping Willow and then Disney Martial Art Festival. He came on by to support us. And I got to sit there and see the divisions that I was running. Matter of fact, that's how I met Bilal. Back in those days. And Bilal and Kid Jason and the late Brian Fry. And I met Hugh O'Donnell, Pete Peterson, all of them guys, and working, doing tournaments and banning. And I did one tournament. I ran FMA at the Pacheco Gym, and I met some of the same groups you guys are talking about too at the whole gym. But yes, I had the opportunity to run into several great, guys that competed in that era of BKF too. If it wasn't for them times, I would have never met Bilal. And we've stayed friends ever since. Yeah. And this platform opened up. And so, hey, it's an honor to have you guys here listening to history.
Yeah, it is an honor.
It's an honor to be here,
But there's one thing I want to bring up for all of you gentlemen, okay? I heard a story. I don't know if it was 89 or 90. That something happened at the Long Beach Internationals. And some of you might know my brother, Palaka Namahoy, Bradford Namahoy, but he told me that the BKF went at it and a riot broke out in the tournament. And Palaka said they sat up in the bleachers and watched it. And it took 6 police precincts to break that fight up.
Yeah.
Were any of you guys there when that happened?
In 89.
I wasn't there, but I heard what happened.
Okay.
I heard. I wasn't there myself, but I heard about it as well.
That actually brought me back into the fold.
Okay.
Because I had, life gets in the way. You got kids, marriage, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And when I heard about that, I was a little upset about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard it was a pretty bad fight.
Yeah.
What was it? What was this? Another one of them situations where they was being cheated and
bad calls.
Bad calls.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. It was I'm gonna call it like it is. It was a bad element in the BKF back then.
Yeah.
Because all the leaders were kind of, like me, just on the sidelines. And in fact, that's why there's a new leadership in the BKF because of that very same incident.
Beautiful. I see. But I'm from Northern California, Stockton, California, born and raised. But the BKF was synonymous for being tough fighters. Down here, Bay Area, you got your crazy dragons, right? You guys probably know some of them. And we're known to have some pretty strong fighters that come from our lineages here too. But most definitely, the BKF always been known as very good fighters. Very good fighters. So it's an honor. It's an honor to have you guys on this show.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
It is, and we're definitely going to spin the block. We're definitely going to spin the block and get you back on. Go ahead.
I did a lot of fighting in Sacramento at the Cow Palace.
Palace?
Yeah, back in the day. I remember riding down there in the back of a pickup truck.
A pickup truck. That's a long ways, bro.
that was before it was
right on the way up and froze on the way back.
Wow.
That's what you had to do back in the day when you didn't have money and you wanted to get rated. You had to travel.
Yeah, to travel. Any of you all ever compete at the Captain Weber Day tournament they used to have in Stockton? It was run by Ron Marchini, Leo Fong.
Yeah,
that ran for many years. And as I was a young kid coming up, that was like the main tournament every year. Was the Captain Weber,
Captain
tournament.
Weber days.
But
I never did find out where they got that name from.
Oh, Captain Weber Stockton, man. He founded this area over here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, represented them.
Never I was going to a tournament.
Yeah.
Now, I remember one year we went to a tournament. We got in. Mr. Winters used to be our form of our source of transportation, and I think Mr. Winters had this Cadillac. I think it was I don't know, maybe a 70, and he'd get like a dozen guys in there.
Big long ones.
Yeah, exactly.
A dozen.
And he'd probably get about a dozen of us in there. We'd be packed in there. And we remember fighting in the tournament up north. And then the following day, it was on a Saturday, and the following day, we drove back down to San Diego to compete in one of the San Diego tournament. And that was the way we rolled. And I think I don't know, everybody pitched together $1, and that was like gas round trip.
That was gas in that area.
That was a long time ago, That's tournaments. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Finish.
So I'm asking this question to Sam because I don't remember. But when the riot broke out at the internationals, was that when Russell fought? I think it might have been the Tividan.
No. We had pretty much stopped fighting then. This was
Barry days. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, that was that crowd.
Okay, so that was we're talking about the late 80s, maybe 90s.
Yeah.
Late 80s. I believe it was 89.
Yeah.
Might have been 89.
Yeah. Because that was after I
retired in 89, but then I remember reading about it, and it was, they already thought bad of us, so then that just that was the tip of the iceberg for me.
Hey,
it made it work.
Grandmaster KC, let me ask you a question. Well, this is actually to both of you all. Were either of you there when Grandmaster Latif won the 79?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Both of them.
He beat Eddie Radar Smith.
Okay.
That's okay. Back then.
You know that guy used to wear it was like a tablecloth, Italian tablecloth for a guitar.
Yeah.
With Joe Louis. Joe Louis used to wear that same guitar.
So from what I understand, it was almost a fight when that happened, right?
No, not really. No. Well, I don't remember. But there were almost fights almost every tournament.
Yeah.
To be totally honest, in the old days, you take it to the parking lot.
So give me better clarity with the relationship with Jim Kelly, because I've heard so many different,
Where do you want the sanitized version or?
Well, I mean, give me the real version. I don't want nothing sanitized.
For real.
Keeping the history going.
I probably have the best recollection. Jim Kelly was a good fighter. Don't get me wrong. He was a good fighter, but he was for himself. To me, he was arrogant. But if you're a fighter, you have to be arrogant. You can't not think that no one can beat you. You have to think that you're the best all the time. So I get it, but he was actually a nice guy, but he was the enemy. When you're a warrior, you're fighting the Romans,
Right.
and you die, you live by the the sword and the shield.
Yeah.
Okay, so I gotta ask this. The whole story with Guru Cliff hemming him up in the bathroom, was that true?
Yep. Gary
hemmed him up.
Yeah.
Wow, I mean, I've been hearing about that for years. You know what I mean?
I believe that
It all
all
started. It started on Russell and Jim Kelly were fighting, and Russell was antagonizing Jim, and Cliff was the referee, and Jim Kelly would keep going after Russell, and Russell would yell something at his girlfriend like, "You need a real man," and get mad, and Cliff said, when I say stop, I mean stop. And Jim went after Russell again, and Cliff grabbed him by the shoulders and physically picked him up and moved him. And Jim was not little.
Wow.
And
wow.
And Rabbit Gary was in the bathroom when Jim came in there, and Jim was talking stuff about Cliff. So Gary, being Mr. Antagonist, went back to Cliff and told him. Cliff went into the bathroom, kicked the door in where Jim was, and said, "Jim, I heard you had something to say about me." And
wow.
That's as far as it went.
Okay.
But that's a true story. Because I was there.
So of course it was a little bit exaggerated, but wow, I thought that was just legend, you know what I mean, or just, myth. Wow.
That's just the watered down version.
I got you.
The polite version.
Polite version of that. Yeah. Wow. That's big. See, so and this is great because a lot of the viewers, they may not even know who Jim Kelly was until people our age know from Enter the Dragon and everything else. The younger generation, it's time for us to let them know. But it's great that we have this platform for you to come on and let it be known, because I found out really about you guys from Aladdin 19. That's how I really found out. Because on the East Coast, you didn't hear much. You didn't hear BKF. You wasn't hearing people. You knew Black Panther, Nation of Islam, Fruit of Islam. Yeah. I've known brothers have relatives come back from Vietnam and everything that was involved. So, so this is great. And that's what I'm saying, for me and Big Wall, we definitely got to have y'all on the Spin the Block to get into it, to follow up and let the audience. and Bilal too. I'm still waiting on Wesley Bilal. You know, I'm always do.
Man, Wesley ain't gonna do it because I asked him. I know him.
I know. I got to message you, but we'll always have you.
I tried to friend him
You'll
on
be
Facebook.
back.
I got blocked.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. So you talked about the story with you and Mr. Snipes?
I just told him that then we got into it at Cliff's, but you know, he's a good fighter. He's an excellent fighter. I'm not taking nothing away from him.
He's modest.
You gotta learn how to choose your words carefully, man. He's a great. I gotta leave it at that. He's a great fighter.
I'm gonna leave that alone.
Yeah. You don't want no political fallback, okay? You know what? I'm already black sheep anyway. You know, I'm not trying to go black sheep.
Mr. Darren, speaking of the winter gathering, that was one of those many situations at the winter gathering.
It was that Cliff Stewart's seminar. It happened at Cliff Stewart's seminar.
That was at war. That was at the war seminar. Okay, yeah.
But I tell you, if you really want to know the story, there's nobody that really tells it good, that would be Josie Culpepper. I used to have to tell him that, dude, just be quiet, bro. You're gonna get me in trouble, man. Because you tell the story, right? But just don't talk about it, bro. Like, I'm not trying to make enemies of the dude. They're too powerful.
But you know, I mean, we're gonna say that story for the next. Bilal, you gotta come. You touched on it, but we'll get back. Bilal's a regular now too. Yeah. So and that's what we'd like for you to come back to address the culture.
He don't want me to step in that because I know this man very well. I got a whole lot of stories.
We gotta have you back too. Come on, some of which gotta have you back. But you know, I definitely like because you know time is something that you can't get back, and I appreciate the fact that you gentlemen have come through and give us your time, and you know, and definitely gonna have you back on. You know, and whatever topics y'all want to talk about, any information you want to get out there regarding to the youth, let us know. Address the culture. We are here, and that's what we do. You know, we're going to address it. We're going to talk about it. You know, and make it known. You know, and that's what it is. And that's what we like to do because you know we all know that your culture are who you are, and you got to definitely make sure that people respect it. And that's our motto. Big Wall always in the show with, you know, and that's what we do, you know, and that's a big thing, and that's what the BKF. I feel like it's a part of my culture, you know, even though I don't because I just do, you know, and to hear you guys are like the elders, you know, that's passing on those stories, and let's get this digital record with Bilal, with Darren, and let's make sure this record so the BKF does live on forever. And ever and ever, and other generations can move in the future, you know, knowing that they come from legitimate lineage. You know what I mean? That's the thing. You know, they come from legitimate lineage.
Also, follow. There's a documentary being made on the BKF. So go on Facebook. Look up Our Fists Are Black, and you can follow the progress.
Beautiful.
Okay, because
can I say this? Let me say this, you know, and I got to give honor, you know, because the BKF is international, and you got to thank people like Grandmaster Amin Ra for making the BKF, you know. I mean, he took BKF all the way to Africa, and you know, and did his thing out. You know what I mean?
I mean, he made it a major system in the country of Kenya. It's a major system.
Yes, sir.
I mean,
yes, sir.
There's karate, Shotokan, and then there's BKF. Like, there's I don't know what I think they call it the KKF or something like that. But that's all Amin Ra. That's all Amin Ra.
And just to add to that, the 103rd Street school history or what have you, you know. That you know, I just wanted to make mention of that because you know, I was talking with
you don't have to make mention of 103rd. I lived in it.
Yeah,
I understand.
I lived.
I understand.
I actually lived in the school.
Yes, sir. Yes,
You
sir.
did the same thing
Yes,
I did
sir.
in Merck Park.
103rd was the Mecca. If you came from 103rd Street, you got instant respect.
Yeah, he did.
Hmm.
Yeah, he did.
I asked Cjo one time. I said, "Sir, how many black belts, BKF black belts, are there?" And he said, "I don't know."
Nobody knows.
And it sounds just like you.
And because I had heard, I was talking with, who was I talking with? I think that was the day that that whole Chico DeBarge incident. That was the conversation. We were like,
we gotta tell you this story. The John
but
DeBarge
hold on.
story.
It was at least, he said it was at least 10,000 BKF, you know, black belts scattered about. And I'm like, wow. You know, and that's what prompted me to ask him that. You know what I mean? Like, is that true? You know what I mean? Because I'm a fact person. I like to deal with, you know. But the truth be told,
like that too. Yeah.
You know, we don't know how many there are out there, especially considering the fact that lineage even goes over to another continent. You know, and that's amazing within itself. You know.
Yeah, but you got to think.
You know,
it shouldn't be that hard. It shouldn't be amazing because everybody's got students.
Yeah.
If you
yes,
have
sir.
students, then eventually you'll have a black belt, and then they'll have black belts.
It's like having children. It's like having
the thing
children.
is, if you're a member, then that makes you an elitist. You know, and everybody wants to be a member. You know, at one time or another.
True.
But we need to. We're growing, and we need to grow more, and we need to. You know, we're talking about old days and stuff, but this is 2022, and we need to move out. And me and KC, our job is to move us out of the 70s and move us into the current, to 21st century. The 21st century looks a lot different than the 70s. There's a lot going on right now, and the BKF is we're forging ahead to keep our name out there and to carve our niche in history.
Right.
We're going
legacy
that way. You know, you're a kid compared to us, and
yes, sir.
nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Bilal, you got snow on your head.
Yeah.
I think the beauty of everything today is it's video age. You see, social media. I mean, this platform. Look how easily you can communicate with probably the world today.
It's borderless,
especially for new members. You know, create opportunity. You could even conduct online classes. You know, if you decide to do that. So I think for the BKF, there's a huge future utilizing like this show today. Okay, streamline. Okay, communication. So you know, it's a great opportunity. But like I said, it's an honor to have you guys on here. I've heard a lot about all your organization, everybody. Like I said, you know, I got to talk with Bilal, Kid Jason, a lot of the old timers. But, you know, in talking with other organizations, Hawaiian Kempo, Taji Kempo, a lot of the guys that competed back in the 70s, one thing they always say, you guys were tough fighters. Okay, so your legacy has lived on. It's still living, you know.
Yeah.
And I think it's where you guys want to take it today with social media and get it out there, you know, work with the youth internationally, nationally, you know.
Yeah.
And I really wish you guys the best for your organization, you know. I really do. But great talking to you guys, you know. KC, Sam, Bilal, Kamal. It's an honor to be here on the show with you guys, man, to listen to your stories, because it's history. It really is.
History. This is a digital history.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Visit AnnasKnickknacks.store. That's AnnasKnickknacks.store. Find all of those things you didn't even know you needed. AnnasKnickknacks.store.
Dressing the culture, I'm address the culture, we gon' talk about it. Come address the culture, we gon' talk about it. Come address the culture, we gon' talk about it. Come address the culture, we